Hey guys, welcome back to another RC video here with RJ Gaming. Doing a quick look at some upgrades here for the Capra that recently were done. If you guys haven't heard, I bought this rig ready to run. It's the four-wheel steer model of the Capra from Axial. Been very happy with the rig so far. Very impressed with the performance. It's just kind of a go anywhere rig. I love the buggy style body where there's just no fenders to get in the way. You kind of can just put whatever on it. It's just one of those kind of unlimited rigs as far as the ultimate crawler. So with the project moving forward, I knew right away just by reading reviews and reading on forums, the electronics that come with this thing stock are not really much to be desired, kind of shitty. And so they did okay, honestly. Like, I had no issues. I didn't burn a motor. Some people are like, oh, I burned the motor right away. Some people are saying the steering servos kind of suck and they burnt out kind of quickly and they had to get new steering servos. I haven't had any issues with that, actually, guys. I have beaten the piss out of this thing. I've taken it up out back with the boys, with Pat, Tom, and Richie. We've gone out and we have just really pushed this thing to its limits, rolled it down this giant rock we call the mountain back there multiple times. I mean, the thing's got crazy scratches on it, and it still just kept going. I haven't really had any issues with anything breaking. I haven't had to replace anything, but the upgrades that we're going to talk about today are the Quick Run FusionPro from Hobbywing and the Flysky GT5 from Flysky. And they are just really the kind of the best things to go for right away with this rig. A lot of the limitations, the axles are really good, the buggy body's good. I'd say the shocks are pretty decent. Even the rims that were on it prior to I put these on, these bead locks from Amazon, they were okay. The tires, yeah, probably if anything, tires maybe even before these two guys. The Nitto grapplers are a pretty stiff rubber, a very strong. It's not a very soft compound, so I had a real hard time even putting nicer foams in it. It just don't really perform as well as like a J Concepts Hold or a Proline Hyrax or any of these other tires that are out there. So probably tires first, I would say. That's why I did what I did. The rims actually these are aluminum bead locks. They add a little bit of weight to the rig, which is kind of nice. I think they look pretty sharp too. They've already gotten some scuffing, as you can see. I've actually got some Enjoras in the box here, actually. Show you that I'm going to be putting together because I already stripped out some of the bead locks. So those are the Enjoras that are actually going to be going on here. These are 1.9s. So those are J Concepts holds, and I'm going to be swapping those out and keeping these rims as kind of a spare set, just in case I have any problems with the Enjoras. But anywho, let's go over the Quick Run FusionPro first. It's a brushless system. It's a 2-in-1, so it's actually the ESC and the motor together. It's 2300 kV, 60 amp, and they claim it has this FOC technology, field operation control or field operator control technology. It's absolutely incredible. Every video I've watched on this motor has just been people just say that they just like rave about it. So I was like, you know what? I watched some other stuff on other videos. I tried to kind of narrow things down, but everybody for like crawling, there was a ton of recent, like, this is kind of the way to go. Like this Quick Run FusionPro, there's an SC 1200 and an SC 800 Quick Run that you can get, Quick Run Fusion. They're not the Pro version. Still phenomenal, I'm sure. I was actually thinking of going with those to save a little bit of money, but I ended up going with the Pro after, just basically my goal with this Capra is to make it the ultimate crawler. I want it to just be able to kind of go on any line I want it to go on. I want it to be just optimized for just really good performance. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to spend 70, 80 bucks on a lesser motor when I can spend the 140, 150 on this guy and sort of have like the best in it now. So basically what you can do with it, which is kind of neat, first of all, it's brushless, comes in this little box right here, which is nice. It's a really, really nice looking motor. Unfortunately, it's in the Capra, so I can't show it to you. But what's cool about it is they give you, so you do not get a programming card with it. I will say that again. You do not get a programming card with the Quick Run FusionPro. You have to buy the Hobbywing program card, which is this guy right here. Okay. And then what they do is they actually give you the Quick Run FusionPro, if you guys can see that, sticker. So it basically replaces the sticker that's underneath. You can almost see the blue out on the edge here, the sticker that was under there. And it gives you all of your programmable points. So let's try to move the camera a little closer here. See if I can get in a little. Yeah. So you've got 1 is running mode, 2 lipos, 3 cutoff voltage, 4 thermal protection, yada yada yada. So running mode, basically there's this forward reverse, that 1 right there, RPM matching. That's sort of the go-to, and I can actually go through. I hooked this up for you guys. Savvy. I put the the power button for the motor ESC right here. I actually mounted it with some double-sided ESC foam so that it kind of sits right where I need it to plug in the program card, because all you do is right underneath the switch that runs down to the motor, you plug in your programming card there, and then when you turn the truck on, your program card pops on with all your goodies. So let's go back in here. So we've got running mode, forward reverse, RPM matching, and that is basically where the truck matches the terrain that you're on. It kind of knows what to do with the power, which has proven to be really, really good for crawling. I watched a video from Crawler Canyon, and he basically narrowed it down to like, it's just worth it to leave that on if you're crawling, because it's just the best you can get. So I'm trying to adjust this in. Lipo cells, kind of just a given to leave it on auto. I only run 3S in all my rigs, so I could set that to 3. So all you do is you click through items. So 1 is set to 1 for my RPM matching, right? And then when I click item, it goes to 2. And my lipo is set to auto. And cutoff voltage, he said to leave it medium, because it's never been an issue for him, so I took his word for that and went to medium. Thermal protection, crawler motors don't get that hot, so I'm not really worried about thermal protection cutoffs, so I left that at 105. Motor rotation is 5. So if you need the motor to rotate a certain direction, let's say for whatever reason your transmission or your, usually on remotes you can reverse too, but if you don't want to see the reverse on your remote, you can just do this and spin the motor the opposite way so that it, you know, forward is reverse and reverse is forward kind of thing, and get it the way you want it. BEC voltage, I'm just sending out 6 volts right now, which is fine for what I'm running. It's not really that big of a deal, but if you need the 7.4 volts for the BEC, then you can move that. The drag brake, this little guy is, let's go through here, 6 for BEC. Drag brake is actually interesting because I've only got it on level 5, which is what it comes stock with, and it is plenty of drag brake to hold the truck in place. And then the drag brake rate I kind of left similar at 5, kind of in the middle, because it's perfect. I mean, I was watching on Crawler Canyons too, and it was holding his trucks on the hills perfectly fine, no issues there. Max reverse force, I changed this to 2, because when you're reversing, I hate when you hit a truck, you know, your throttle in reverse and the truck just flies backwards down the hill and you like just fly off wherever you're at. You don't need 100% reversing, or at least I don't. That's personal preference. So I did 2 for that for 50%. And then your max brake force, I just kept it at 6. That seems to be just fine for what I'm doing. And then if you go into 11, this is actually the RPM decrease rate. If you are running in running mode 1, you don't need to mess with this because it's doing RPM matching. 11 is null and void. But if you are running in forward reverse brake normal mode, either the normal modes really, you can use the RPM decrease rate, but it's null and void if you're running RPM matching, so not a big deal. And then punch. So how punchy is the motor? And I just left that at 5 too, because it seems to be just fine for crawling 5, but if you can toy around with that if you want. And then neutral range, again, we're crawling, we're not really racing or anything like that, so I left it at 8%, which is option 3. I'm just trying to keep the camera focused, sorry. And then if you want to change anything, so like let's say we want to change, let's go into, okay, we're going to go to, let's just do the lipo. And we say, you know what, we want that to be 3. We just hit value till it goes to 3. Then we hit OK, and you'll see this little line. It just programmed that in. So now it's programmed for option 2. It's programmed in for 3S instead of auto. And then if we want to go back, we just go back to 1, hit OK, boom, programmed. It's just so simple. It's kind of, you know, just a simple little way to program your rig the way you want it. So once you get it the way you want it with that, you can literally just disconnect power from the rig and disconnect the box. It's that simple. So I kind of like that. I mean, you're not really messing with much, but they actually give you the cable with the box. Just a little, you know, simple coupler. So that works really good. And then you can just save your little card for whenever you need it later on. And so yeah, I haven't had it out on the rocks yet, so it's very hard to say, you know, obviously if it's, you know, how it's going to perform out there, but just in here now, it's crawling around. Just it's 2 in the morning right now, so I'm not going to be going out in the woods at 2 in the morning to try to test this thing out. I want to wait till some daylight. But just crawling around the house, I can feel the difference. The only other thing I didn't, I was told by a lot of these folks on the forums to drop my pinion from a 14 to an 11 tooth pinion, because it just helps kind of slow everything down and puts you in a nice crawling range where you still have enough high end to like get out to where you're crawling. You know, if you're traveling and you want the truck to move not as slow as molasses, your high end is still fast enough to like go faster than a brisk walk, so you're good there. But your low end is super, super buttery controlled. I ordered the wrong pitch. I ordered a 48 pitch pinion, which is the wrong one. It actually says in the Axial manual that it's a 48 pitch, but reading online, people actually said the manual's wrong. It's a 32 pitch. I put the 48 pitch in and I slid my motor mounts all the way over and it wouldn't even grab the teeth. I could tell right away. I'm like, that's not gonna work. So I still have a 14 tooth pinion in here, and even with the 14 tooth at 2300 kV, it's insanely controllable. It's really, really neat. So from what I've done with this so far, it's a phenomenal motor to put in this this rig or any crawling rig. If you've got a TRX4, if you've got an SCX10, any of these rigs that crawl, this thing is just so smooth. So definitely easy to put in. Like I said, the ESC is built into it, so it's kind of neat. Like you've got your power wire, and then you've got your wire that goes to your receiver. You know, always remember 1 to turn, 2 to burn. So plug your ESC into 2, and that's it. And your switch. This is wired right to it. This little power switch that I mounted right here, and that's where your little program box plugs into. It's very simple to put in. Like I put it in right in the instructions. It tells you how to go ahead and do your calibration, which is just like any, you know, you turn it on, there's a, you know, you hold the button down and then you calibrate in neutral, then you calibrate full throttle, then you calibrate full brake / reverse, let it go, hit it again, and then it cycles back out. Calibration is just like any other motor that I've ever dealt with. So very easy to put in. The only thing with the Capra that you have to understand is there's not a whole lot of room in here. There's you know, you've only got this little guy underneath your interior mold. So it's a little, I don't know if you guys can see. try to get my wiring best I could in there, but it's a little tight. I've actually got a little more rewiring to do, so I wanted to just have the wiring accessible. But you have to shave. Let's see if I can get this right without hitting the camera. You have to shave, there we go, this link arm right here. So this is all one plate, this big belly plate here that kind of is your protector. This is molded into that, this little link tower. And that link tower, you can see the rear of the motor is right there. It literally has to be shaved with the Dremel down just ever so slightly. You got to shave a little bit off to get the motor to sit flush, because when you look at it like this, your motor will sit kind of like, it'll sit sort of like that. And then as you shave that link tower down, it lets the motor sit flush, flat, so that it, you know, your transmission can sit flat and you can be in good shape there. So next thing we're going to talk about, and I'll do more videos. Obviously, I'll do more crawling videos and I'll show it in action, and I'm going to try to be better about that, you know, showing some of these really cool, difficult lines that I'm able to do with this thing. So more to come on this motor. It's in now, and the shit I do outside will, you know, hopefully I'll get some good videos for you guys and you can see it actually in action, because that's really what speaks volumes to anything in RC especially. So next thing we're going to talk about Flysky GT5. I'm going to back this. Thank you to my brother Pat, PJL Daily. Shout out to him. He got these tripods for recording. He bought 2 of them. We were lucky enough for him to leave us with one here at the track. So I'm using that to record this, and it's made life way easier. So thank you, Pat, for doing that. I really appreciate it, buddy. So here we are, Flysky GT5, and this actually I had to do because, just a quick explanation, when you get the Capra stock, let's see if I can find it. Here we go. When you get the Capra stock, there is a Spectrum Firma ESC / receiver. So this is actually a receiver and ESC. So what do you do if you want to change your, you know, motor, and your motor comes with an ESC? Well, now this has to go. Can't have 2 ESCs. So this has to go. So now what? I lose my receiver. So now what the hell do I do about a receiver? So that's why the Flysky GT5 came along. This is actually shout out to West Desert Wheeler, another guy I watch on YouTube, super capable, very, very talented guy. He is like my sort of inspiration to start in the Capra world. He just does so much with Capras. It's crazy that some of the crawls he can do, just mind-blowing. So check him out, West Desert Wheeler. He's really, really cool to watch. But he actually uses the Flysky GT5. So I was like, you know what, let me look into that. And guys, it was literally $64.99 on Amazon for the receiver and the transmitter. So you can't really beat that. It's a 6-channel system. This is the first aftermarket radio remote that I've ever ran, and it is fucking awesome. I love the motor, but I almost love the radio just as much as the motor, and the radio is sort of a forced purchase. So first off, geometry is just really nice on it. It has this like rubber kind of backing, so it's not all plastic. So where your hand goes, it's actually rubber. It feels really good in your hand. Not too crazy, giant, big. It's got sort of like a slim design, but it's also not to the point where it feels like chintzy or like rattles around. It actually feels solid in your hand. And I like, it's got stuff, but not too much stuff for a guy like me who's kind of just starting out in the aftermarket radio realm. So you have all your different channels, and what's cool about it, if you can see it, actually tells you what channel is what. So like that's channel 3. I don't know if you can read that. It's hard to see on the camera. There you go. Channel 3. Let's see if I can focus in. There. And this is channel 4 up here. Get my lighting just right. There we go. Steering trim. here, throttle trim there. Those are just quick access buttons. I'll show you the actual menu here. And this one's kind of cool. It's like a flip lever. It's got 2 different positions, which is neat. And then your channel 3 is a button. And then channel 4 is here, as we saw. And then channel 5 is actually right up here. It's a turn dial, really nice dial, very smooth. Then channel 6 is another turn dial, right there. So, kind of neat about this, and what's really cool is it's really programmable. Like, the wheel feels really good too, just going over geometry. And then you can fold this down if you want. Like, you don't have to have the antenna up, but obviously when you're using it, you know, you can put it up like that. It takes 4 AA's like any other radio usually. And then it has this, so it's pre-bound from the factory when you get it with the receiver. I'll show you in a second. But if you need to bind it to another receiver, your bind button's there. Back button's there for menu. And then this is actually a clicker and a roll wheel, which is really interesting. I'll show you guys a little bit about that in a second. So it comes with this tiny little 6-channel receiver right there. And I mounted it in that little box. So my other receiver was actually mounted in here, behind here, this thing. But I was like, you know what, this box tray, the top of it actually comes off, and it's meant to have a receiver in it, I think. So I put the receiver right in there with some tape. It's really, really secure. And there's all your channels. So you actually have a true 6-channel, because you've got channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through 6, and then bind. So pretty freaking awesome. And it's small, like it fits right in there nice. So with everything set up the way that I have it, let's go ahead and turn the radio on. So the radio looks really sharp too. So your on switch is right here. Turns on. And let's turn the truck on. So there's our Hobbywing doing its little beeps. What's cool is you can actually have different trucks in here. So your model is here. So my Model 1, and I actually did Capra for Capra, because there's only 4 letters. But you can change those letters, which is really neat. You can go right into here. So you can change your model. I got to turn receiver off to actually go through. But you can do like Model 1, 2, 3, 4, right up through, and you can name them different numbers, or names. So if you have 5 different RCs and you want to use this remote on all of them, you can just go Model 2 and then do like slash, you know, SL, whatever you want to call it, you know, Stampede. And then all you have to do is these little 6-channel receivers are like I think they're $15. So you just buy one of those for each of your vehicles, and then you bind this to each of those, and then you just switch to your model, and all of your settings for that model that you change in all these menu options is saved. So all your trucks can be controlled from one remote, which is really cool. So we're in Model 1 Capra, and I'm just going to go through some of the options here. So we have, first thing is model, then, you know, you go into name to name it. And so reverse, if you need to change the direction. I don't know if you guys can see the screen. I'm like screen on screen here, so I want to make sure you guys are seeing this. See how it says ST, that's steering? If I rotate this little thing, steering, throttle, auxiliary. So you can roll through your different channels. So if you want your steering to be reversed, all you have to do is hit steering, and you can do normal or reversed. I have reverse picked because that's the way I like it. And you can do that with your throttle too. So if like that's another thing, like with that motor, you know, we could spin it different directions. You can also do it here. You can go in here, go to throttle, and see I have it reversed, because the way that it was set up, it wasn't, you know, going forward for forward, back for back. So you can just reverse it, which is really neat. Trying to keep focus on the screen. Sorry if it focuses away. EPA is like an endpoint adjustment, I think is what EPA stands for. But this is basically like for a steering servo. If you have a steering servo, like this one steers, see how it steers right to the, I'll try to do it front facing here. Oh, that's gonna be bright on you guys, sorry. So when I steer this, it's not really fighting to steer any further than that. The Capra really lets it steer 100% each way. But see how on the screen it's saying LFU, RBD, or whatever? That's to adjust. So all I have to do, see how it says 100%? If I roll this roller, oops, and I go steering, see I roll it back, look at the steering, how it's turning, whoops, it's turning in as I go down in percent, and then I go back out to 100%. It's adjusting the endpoints. So when I turn that wheel that direction, like this, it's gonna stop where I tell it to stop here. So if I have that at 50, it's gonna go 50% to the right, 50% to the left. Now some trucks, not like the, you know, the Capra, it doesn't, you can't steer further than a certain point because your links will only allow it to go so far, like your steering angle's tight. So you don't want a steering servo to try to steer farther than it can, because you can break the servo and bend links and damage stuff. So you want to, if you feel like when you turn it and it's like it's making noises trying to steer further than it can, you can dial those endpoints in on here and save them so that your steering servos don't burn out prematurely, which I really like. So that's that. Endpoint adjustment. All right, what's next? So we want 100 on that for both directions. Let's just make sure both are set up here. Yep, they're both at 100, so that's saved. Now we move on to sub trim. All this is trim, the normal trim that we're going to get to, but just a little bit more precise. I didn't use it at all. I keep it right at 0, but if you want, you can adjust your trim out either direction. And then let's go to DR. I forget what this is. This is what it stands for, but it's another one of those, I can make it only push so far. So this can limit the amount of power that it puts out. So this is like another way you could basically adjust your endpoints. So instead of establishing a set endpoint on either side, you can actually just reduce the amount of power going to the steering in this setting. And so far it's all like, you wouldn't really want to mess with the throttle with that. So it doesn't really make sense to have throttle in there. I guess if you really wanted to tune it in, you could, but we're obviously not going to do that. And then EXP, exponential, I think that's what it's called, what's referred to. I'm trying to remember, but basically, like steering, I have it set to 0, but with my, this is where throttle actually comes in. See how it says 50%? What that basically does, if I have that set to 0, or if I have that, like if I have it set to 100, it's very snappy. So if we turn this, go like this and go all the way up to 100, my throttle is very jumpy. It wants to just drive right off the, you gotta go really careful to get it back. But if I turn this down to 50%, or you can dial it to whatever percent you want, watch my, I'll bring this down so you can see. It's a little more easy on, easy off. It's not as jumpy. And with that 14 tooth, you really want to take some of that jumpiness out. So that's why I've got that set to 50. So you can play around with that, which is nice. And then ABS, the Hobbywing actually comes with ABS in it. That's your drag brake, basically, and your drag brake application that we already adjusted. So I leave ABS off in the remote and rely completely on my Hobbywing for the ABS stuff. Trim, just like we said before. So if we go in here, let's go to steering just to show steering. Watch my right side. Let's see if I can put the tires here to show you. It's just steering trim, you know, just like you would have. See it trim over, and then if I go back, see the tiny little adjustments? Tiny little, and I'm rolling that wheel super fast. Pretty cool that you can dial it in that much. So that's your trim. All right. And then Fail safe is if the vehicle gets away from you, you can actually set it to stop, cut power basically, which I don't really, I guess I could turn it on. I think, where's my fail safe? Going to, I believe it would be on throttle is what we'd want it on, right? So I guess at 0%, we would want it to cut. I think that's what that's saying. So I haven't really messed with it too much because I'm not really too worried about it, but that is something that's programmable in here, I guess. And then crawl is kind of interesting. Crawl, there's A through D. So there's the A mode, which is normal steering, B, which is just rear steering, C, which is crab walking, and then D is where you turn your front tires and then your rears go the opposite direction to kind of give it that rear steer. I have my rear steer set up differently. I'm going to show you here in a second how I have it set up. This is definitely an option. The steering has to be plugged into the third port, channel 3, to be able to do this. I have my steering plugged into 6, and there's a reason. I'll show you in a second. This is service, I think it's called, and I don't know what it does. I haven't really been able to find in the manual, excuse me, what it does. I've had to kind of learn about this radio more on YouTube, so I really don't know what service does, but I have it off for now. Sorry, the best I can tell you on the service thing. I don't think it really matters too much. So our rear steer is set up on channel 6. So when I turn this little knob, what I love about this rear steer, watch this. Look at the control. All the way over. I can just, I can sit wherever I want. Isn't that nice? Bring it right around. So I can, you know, do my typical, that guy. I can do my crab walk, back, and then bring my, you know, steering back. And I have it set up so that when I go this way, it brings it this way. And that's that whole reverse or normal. I actually have this channel reversed as well. So when I spin the dial to the right, my tires go to the right. And that kind of is what makes sense in my brain for the rear steer. But you can hear it. It's not really trying to pressure any further. So that works perfect. So that's the Flysky GT5. As you can see, it's not too complicated to where it's like, you know, holy crap, how do I program this radio? But it also gives you that little bit of, like, you could see like with the exponential thing, with all of your trims, you know, adjusting your endpoints so that you're not blowing out your steering servos. It's just that little bit of customization, like that. I really like the throttle sensitivity one, the EXP, because that 50% just feels so, I mean, it takes a lot longer. Instead of it being like, boom, right there, it takes a little longer for that throttle to come on. You still get, when you pin it, top speed, but it's just a little more buttery in the middle. And combine that with the Hobbywing FusionPro, oh, you've got a combo. And this is a 14 pinion, and it's just doing great. So what I'm gonna do now, I wanna just show you guys real fast. We're getting on about 32 minutes right now. But I want to show you, let's go down to like this. Sorry, we're doing this kind of in the, I call it the shop, but it's the shop/kitchen. I'm going to show you guys the control this truck has. Alright, so we're in frame there. Back you guys up a little bit. Now, this is the throttle control. Now, listen real close. You cannot hear this thing. It's so quiet. But I'll go as slow as I can. Ready? You can see the flashing. The truck is still moving. That's as slow as the truck can go, and now watch this. That's if I want to go. I still have plenty of power, but it's just that smooth, buttery control. And here's my rear steer. Look at this. So if we want to turn this thing around, this. And then point the rear steer straight. Now watch, get back to the wall here, right? Watch the control. I'm just barely gonna crawl up this thing, just really slowly, very controlled. That's the kind of control this motor has, guys. And there it is. I'm not touching anything. That's holding itself. And then I can just slowly control myself. I mean, I can still control the rear steer up there. Come down nice and slow. And I can stop anywhere. Until the tires actually lose grip. I can stop there, there. You'll hear the tires lose grip. Hear it? Boom. I just set it down. You know, it just blows my mind how controlled it is. It's just nuts to me. Like, look at that nice tight turning radius with the rear steer. I'm gonna bring it back around. And I can set it right where I want it, which I really like. And then we can just come at it. We can go a little quicker this time, you know? And then just get it right where we want it with that control. There it is, not touching it. So, humongous upgrades for this truck. There it is, you know. I cannot say enough good things about both of these products. I think they're awesome. And let's see if I can get you guys a little end point there. So let's come back over here for some closing thoughts. Might as well put everything back where I had it when I started, right? Let's go back. Oh, there we go. So yeah, haven't had it on the rocks yet, but just based on how this vehicle performs versus how when I got it versus now, it's just crazy, guys. It's nuts. It's the control, as you just saw. I mean, I feather the remote. It just tiny little. You can't go any slower, I don't think, or the truck won't be moving. So, like I said, look for some more videos on this. I'm going to be posting hopefully more actual live videos now that I have the tripod. Thanks again to PJL Daily for hooking me up with that, hooking us up with that out here. And yeah, hopefully we can get some more actual shots out there on the rock, and I can show how these items perform. But if you guys are looking for a combination motor, ESC, receiver, transmitter, I really can't think of a better way to go, because you've got your customization, enough customization to dial it in the way you want it, but not too much to the point where it's like overwhelming and it's just too much, you know. So for a guy who's just starting out with the customizable stuff, I think that it's the perfect spot. And if you guys have a Capra, or let's say not even a Capra, a TRX4 or SEX10, or even like, I don't know, just any rig, and you're like, boy, I really don't like the motor in this thing. I'd rather have something with a little more just control, that crawl control, and just that really good drag brake. I mean, shit, look no further than the Hobbywing, the Quick Run FusionPro. There's also, like I said, the Quick Run Fusion SE 1200, and I think it's 1800 kV. So both of those I've heard are very capable as well. And Flysky GT5 for a radio for $64 with a receiver, 6-channel, and all that customization. You cannot go wrong with that radio. That radio is awesome. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Sorry it was a little long-winded, but most of my videos are, because I like to be in depth and try to talk about as much as I can. So If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and happy RCing out there. Have fun, and we'll talk to you in the next one.